Okay, almost time for bed, and I decided to make another video because I was thinking about individualism and how important it is for me to always remember that my allegiance is to myself. And the reason why it kind of came to mind is because, I have always been able to notice that people deep down inside are self-serving. And what I mean by that, they do selfish acts, in spite of the fact that they might say, oh, I'm a Christian, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. And people are just have a very selfish nature. And this is something I am aware of. I mean, I didn't realize how extreme it really is, but it's definitely there. And that's exactly how I view the world. I believe that most people live in ignorance, and they don't have the ability to think for themselves. So they need somebody to lead them or guide them or tell them what to do in order for them to reshape their behavior, because oftentimes people behave in a way that is almost animalistic, okay? People do things that they're like borderline crimes, okay? Like this right here is just a flat out crime, plain and simple. But but they do it, and they do it in a way that is extremely selfish, and their real motive, everybody who got involved in this blacklisting, was really to benefit themselves. Now, when I think of racism, I wanted to kind of go back to my video, because I'm doing 3 videos today. I want to go back to my video on racism and why this whole issue about me lying to my husband many years ago was so offensive, and why they felt as though it was enough ammunition for them to already justify the racism that was in their heart before I even got here. So they used it as an excuse to literally act out their racism. And this is true. I mean, because when you think about it, what does it do, or what harm is it for me to tell something to my husband when it doesn't involve everybody else, okay? What happened here is I inadvertently challenged white supremacy, even though this wasn't ever supposed to be a public issue, but it is. It's a matter of white supremacy, and it is very obvious to see that. There is no reason, there's people, I have known white people, coworkers, who admit that their son's been in jail, that they've knocked up some girl, didn't pay any child support. I mean, some of these people that I've known and worked with, their children to me are nothing more than trash, plain and simple. But for whatever reason, they can, discriminate against a person of color because they are programmed to. And there's a lot of hypocrisy when it comes to racism. What I mean, and what I'm trying to say is that, when it comes to racism, I've heard a lot of white supremacist people come flat out and say, well, I don't like black people because, and they'll start naming off things that really have no accurate truth to them. Like they'll say stuff about affirmative action, even though white women are the main benefiters, people who benefited from affirmative action. They'll talk about things like the OJ trial. They'll talk about everything that mostly is based on stereotypes and assumption. And yet, and then they'll say things like, because, black people are always on welfare and they don't try to help themselves, they don't try to raise themselves up. Now, this is a great example of the oppression that people experience, okay? This is a great experience because every employer that got involved in this would be the same people who would turn around and say how black people don't do anything to try to help themselves. They're ignoring the fact that this is systematic racism, and they are fully participating in it. This is exactly what it is. And that's why, when it comes to mobbing issues and things that relate to something like this, it is something of a psychological phenomenon, because many of these people will tell themselves, oh, I have black friends, and I have this, and I have that. But in reality, they are self-serving. Okay, so I kind of want to go back to how a lot of white people, or racist white people, they'll say things like that, like, oh, well, I don't like her for being on welfare. But when they do something, or like, for example, for example, I talked about how I talk, I speak with proper diction, okay? I pronounce words very well, and many people think that I'm of European descent when they hear me over the phone. Okay, Now, I've heard white people complain about how black people, they find it offensive when black people speak in what they call Ebonics, right? But yet, if a black person speaks proper and actually paid attention in school or have learned to utilize the English language correctly, then they experience a backlash of saying that they're trying to be white. Okay? When it comes to racism, there is absolutely no winning, okay? So there's no point in trying to live for anybody other than yourself. And that's exactly what I do. I don't believe that, black people, and I'm fully aware of the racism that exists, okay? I'm not stupid. It is out there and it fully does exist, okay? And that's not to say, well, I'm siding with white people because, I'm talking about not unifying with other black people. I'm just saying is when you get down to the very heart of it, okay? Black people will stab you in the back just as well as a white person will if they feel as if it's going to benefit them, okay? Like I gave you an example earlier this week, okay? This is how they are. So, and don't get me wrong, I mean, when I hear about black people struggling, I fully relate and I truly give and extend my support to the black community. If I knew of a black family that was starving, I would definitely try to do my best to help them if they were deserving of it, of course. But, and I do relate to the struggles that we experience, so I am very much aware of the issues, okay? But do I think that I'm going to align my belief system with a group of other black people because I believe that these people are going to help me? I believe that majority of people will throw you under the bus if they have the opportunity to. And that's just human nature. So, to me, people are just disgusting anyway. I mean, because most people don't have proper manners and etiquette, and it's it's just with everybody, okay? But like for example, I know that in this world, the only person you really can live for is yourself, okay? The things that I do, like I've been around some racist white people, and I'll do something. Or I'll say something, and they'll pick it apart because they don't like the way that I speak. Okay. Now when it comes to the way that I speak, both my parents, I would say, had a pretty good grasp of the English dialect. Okay. Now I know my mom has kind of more of a gruffer sound, and she does sort of pronounce some words differently. But if you were raised in a school system and you're around, in your environment, and plus my dad spoke very well too, you're going to utilize the language correctly. You're going to speak proper English. And that's what I do. I speak proper English. And I don't expect other people to, I do. At this point, I do expect people to have a problem with it because, like I said, if I was to speak in a way, in a dialect that they're familiar with, they would be offended because they would feel as though I'm uneducated and I'm just not worth their time because I'm not speaking properly. I'm a person who has always spoken properly, and they get offended because they feel threatened by it because they'll say that I'm trying to be white. If you are intelligent and make a good use of the English language, that does not mean that you're trying to be white. You are just simply having a good use of the English language. See, and in a situation, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. There is no point in it. So what I'm saying is that white people have been programmed to hate black people on impact. For whatever reason, for any kind of social interaction that they have with them, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, it is always going to be picked apart, okay? Because white people would prefer you not to exist anyway. So, and I'm fully aware of that. I'm very well aware of that, okay? So I'm the kind of person, I live for myself, okay? I'm not going to always please. And it's unfortunate. Like when I hear black people telling me that I sound white or whatever, that does not mean that I don't support black people or that I'm not black or whatever, okay? It just simply means that I am a proper speaking black person, okay? I make good use of the English language. That does not mean that I'm trying to be something other than what I am. And just because I said that to my husband does not mean that I admire white people, okay? Now there are some white people who are famous, okay, who have done tremendous, wonderful things, okay? And this is what happens when people adhere to white supremacy, because you could take a white person who has absolutely nothing going for them and they will take pride in something somebody famous created so that they can feel good about themselves, okay, because they have no personal accomplishments. That's white supremacy, okay? And it is very foolish. But people can believe whatever they want to believe, okay? But they get obnoxious with it, like the lady who did that today. She honestly did look psychotic. Her eyes got real big and everything. Like she really could try to threaten me. I don't know. The lady's got half of her fucking 1 foot in the grave. She ain't gonna do nothing, okay? She's an old lady, and she had some nerve, you know, getting in my face or even attempting to do something like that. But that's white supremacy. That's the arrogance that she carries inside of herself. She honestly thinks that she has a right to behave that way. So, and I'm very open about it. I mean, this is reality. This is how people really are. And, you know, I don't believe in getting support by black or white people. And that goes for a lot of Asian people, too, because I've known a lot of Asian people who delude themselves thinking that they can align with white supremacy, and they will do whatever they can to be like other white people, but when the shit hits the fan, they're going to be in for a rude awakening. I'm no goddamn fool. I know how people are. So I have to take things on an individual basis. I have to look at people and say, okay, well, you know, I have to really look at them, the overall person, and I have to make a decision based on that. I can't base it on their race completely. Although I know that many white people do harbor racist views, okay? It's just something that they are accustomed to. And I can understand, you know, aligning yourself with a belief system that makes you feel like you're superior, okay? That's one of the reasons why, you know, Hitler had so many followers, okay? Because he really pumped up the ego of the people in Germany. And these people thought that they were invincible, you know, because that's the sort of racial pride that people can get. And it's kind of brainwashing, but because people really have a hard time of looking at themselves and say, hey, you know what, I as an individual, I am not great, okay? I'm looking at all these, like, people who are involved in science or the medical industry or, the medical field, or people who, like great philosophers, and these other people who were white. And these people are they deserve the respect. But that doesn't mean that that stupid bitch, like, for example, at work, could sit here and start getting an attitude because she thinks that she can take the credit for what these people have accomplished. And that's exactly what white supremacy is. And I look at people who feel this way, and I can't help but think how fucking pathetic they really are. But anyway, that's how racism is to me. And that's how it is, how I am when it comes to looking at you know, black-white issues. And like I said, that does not mean that I don't support my black people. They are my people, and I do understand our struggles. I fully get that, okay? But will I put my faith in other people? Fuck that. That will never, ever happen. Yeah, and you know, and that's how I look at it. And then also, I also see it from a religious angle too. I mean, a lot of times people, you know, go to church. They do things for their own selfish reasons. Okay, they want to get a job. They want to fit in. Okay, they want to fit in. They want to fit in, so they'll adhere or they'll adapt religious views that they don't fully understand, okay? They just know that it makes them look normal. It makes them look normal if they appear and they come into church, okay? And they go to church and they sit there and they pray, and then they get out of church and they're just obnoxious pieces of shit, you know, the other 6 days of the week. But when they get to the church, they can put this little mask on and act like they're some good people, when in fact they're really not, okay? Perfect example. Look at this situation, okay? So in this world, you know, I understand that I have to take care of myself, and I feel like sometimes I walk outside the door, and I really feel like I'm living in The Walking Dead, or everybody around me is zombies or some freaks that are evil. And I'm not saying that I'm just like so prim and proper and I have all the great etiquette, but I do realize that based on my experience, being blacklisted, being mobbed, the community gang stalking and all this, I'm not in a situation where I feel like people are good and friendly, okay? So I have to be honest and open about things, and that's how I feel, and that's my experience, okay? So, and then going back to me, you know, lying about my race to my husband, I gotta ask this question. I mean, seriously, who gives a fuck? Okay, the only reason why somebody gives a fuck is because they would feel threatened because of their white supremacy. They feel like, well, if she said she was white, they think that I admire white people and I'm striving to be like the average white person who may live in a trailer park. That ain't happening, okay? Now, I will say that, you know, like I said, I do admire a lot of white celebrities. For example, when I was growing up, I love clothes anyway, okay? So when I was growing up, when Madonna came out, I remember just thinking she was like the shit, okay? Madonna was the shit. And what I loved about her was the way that she expressed herself and her clothes, because, you know, my mom always picked out my clothes when I was younger, and I was always walking around looking dirty and shit. And Madonna was just, like, so free with her clothes. Like, she could, like, mix and match, and she could have, like, you know, denim with lace or whatever. And I'm like, damn, that bitch has got everything, you know? And I just thought, man, I love her clothes, okay? And and I remember liking Goldie Hawn when I was little, and Cher. Oh my God, I could go on and on about fucking Cher. Like, Cher was just so amazing to me. Okay, but I never thought I can't like them and I can't admire them because they're white. I never thought that. What I liked about them was their style, the way that they held themselves, and that's what I admired about them. Now, and those are attributes that people can apply in their life if they choose to, I'm saying, but that doesn't relate to anybody's race. I don't see where that has to do with a race thing, okay? Just because I like Cher doesn't mean I can be Cher, okay? Just because I think, I don't know, Madonna with her blonde hair, okay, doesn't, believe me, I don't want to be blonde, okay? But I think every black person wonders, like, what would I look like with that? And I've already tried that, you know, I got pictures taken one time with the blonde hair, and I got it, okay? That's not my thing, but I don't see anything wrong with people lightening their hair if they want to. But anyway, my point is that it's one thing to admire a white person that is famous, rich, and worthy of admiration, but the average white person, I'm sorry, I just don't admire them. I just don't. I just don't. And if I do, it has to be on an individual basis, okay? It's not like I'm going to sit here and, like, you know, think that, you know, maybe like a bum or something is going to be like the shit just because, like, you know, he's white. And there's a lot of pathetic people that walk around, sadly, and believe that. They believe that they're the shit because they got white skin, and it doesn't matter what they do, how many teeth they may not have. They are the shit, and they want you to know it, okay? That's ridiculous. It really is. It really is fucking ridiculous. But, you know, hey, I've had my share of having to deal with it. But ultimately, though, I live for myself, okay? I believe the way that I see things is the correct way of seeing it, okay? And I take certain things literal. Like, if it's relating to spirituality, religion, or whatever, yeah, you have to take that stuff literally, okay? You can't truly believe in something and not know what it is that you believe, you know? And when it comes to racism, I believe it exists. I think it exists because people need to have something to feel good about, you know, so they're kind of like grasping for straws. So they think that, you know, and it is ridiculous. They think that they can take credit for things that they never did, and they can align themselves with all the greats in history, all because their skin coloring is the same. And it's the delusion, you know, that I actually take a delight in. So anyway, individualism for me is the only way to go. My only allegiance in this world is to myself. I'm going to wrap this video up. Have a wonderful evening.